as a kid, my dad always enjoyed having his family around, or sort of demanded it really. So when he would go on location, we would all go with him. So we traveled all over. And so anyway, I'm sort of speaking to the world that I was raised in, which was one of appreciation for this camaraderie and the type of people coming together. So George Lucas and Phil Kaufman was a friend, John Milius, the screenwriter. So that was sort of the world I grew up in. And a lot of people recall their memories like, oh, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. And for me, it's like, oh, we were in the Dominican Republic for that part of Godfather 2, and we were in Sicily, So my experiences sort of divided up to these chapters that related to the work he was doing. And in addition, he really loved having his kids around, and so he put us in the movies. So you probably know, but Sophia is the young Anthony Corleone in The Godfather. I'm in Godfather 2 as Sonny Corleone. I have a double role because I'm also an immigrant arriving at Ellis Island, so I have the privilege of having 2 parts in that movie. But the point being that we were around, so the family of the kind of circus-like camaraderie of the crew and the production designers and the camera operator and the visual effects, or the special effects people rather, I grew up around them, and as a kid, it was very sensual experiences. You're kind of looking around, and I remember on Godfather they had a horse head in a big crate with dry ice, preserving that because it was a real animal part. But I remember the dry ice, I put it in a styrofoam cup, and it was kind of squeaking because it'll do that. And the special effects guy said, don't touch that, it'll burn your finger. So my experiences are all kind of stirred up with these now somewhat historical connection to an iconic movie, but it's just kind of regular life, and those are the things I experienced. So cutting ahead on all my dad's films, I would help out a bit, on Apocalypse Now. I was around 12, and I was very interested in theatrical makeup. And for those who appreciate that, there's a legend named Dick Smith, who is the iconic makeup artist of that generation. He did The Godfather, and he gave me some training and encouraged that appreciation. During Apocalypse, I sort of hung out with Freddie Blau, who was the makeup guy, and learned how to make scars. So play and life and then kind of working sort of blended together. And fast forward, I was working in the extras casting department during One from the Heart. I did finish high school and go to NYU, and I did attend the cinema studies school and then transferred to filmmaking, or the film program, which is different, and had that kind of fun experience as you guys are having, to be with your colleagues and cohort, your people your age, and making things. And then the sort of aha moment, if there was such one, was my dad invited me to participate in Bram Stoker's Dracula, which was shot in 1990. And I was, I guess, 25 or something, I can't really remember. But he entrusted me with a lot of responsibility, which was to lead the second unit in the visual effects. And he was when he made that film, there was a effects team that came aboard and were kind of assumed they knew what he wanted, and they were talking about a lot of these new digital techniques and things. He says, don't want to do that, I want to do it the old-fashioned way. So he knew that I loved theatrical magic. I'll say I love magic. People think I'm talking about black magic, so make it clear, theatrical magic. In fact, I took lessons at a place called Earthquake Magoons, which is like 2 blocks away from here. Do we have any old San Francisco people? Peter, you remember Earthquake Magoons? Okay. Turk Murphy. Anyway, it's an old nightclub, and I took magic lessons there. And so he knew this about me, and he said, oh, well, Roman should do the visual effects because he loves magic. Because film trickery, and even the pioneers of film, Méliès being the famous one, but there's others, were the first people to make use of these toys and turn them into a real art form were magicians. So he thought that was cool because Dracula was, the book was written in 1896, which is the birth time of cinema in effect. So we used a lot of classic techniques, And I directed the second unit, which was a significant endeavor. And that sort of got me started as a director. That's the pathway. Sorry to be so long-winded, but I'm trying to get it all in there.
And it's all about the magic, you know. So eventually goes back to that. I also jump into this business properly because, you know, like something that we're gonna screen a little bit later on. Filmmaking is that space where really, you know, people and talents get together and create out of nothing, not only stories, but real magic. So this is so beautiful. But however, you know, to keep it real and consistent, you know, yes, you directed the second unit, but then you started to find your own path with music videos, first off, you know, which eventually took you to directing. We'll talk about that. But how was that step? I think it was quite unique. You worked with Green Day's, Daft Punk, the Strokers, and that was a little bit of the beginning of your career, and then going into commercial. Most recently, also, you shot with Apple. Like, how was getting into there? And
I don't think I've shot with Apple.
Oh no, a commercial with Apple?
No,
oh, no.
I'm available. But.
Okay, well, my bad. Apology. I want to give you extra credit. I always do. But how was moving into music videos before going back to cinema?
Well, after Dracula, it was a successful movie, and it was very visually stylish, and so people were curious to work with me, or I had a calling card. I was in a band in high school, and so I made a music video for the band I was in, and then that led to other opportunities, and there was a wonderful moment in mid-'90s, early '90s. The MTV was very, very vibrant. There was a thing called the Buzz Bin, which was the videos of note that got played a lot, and people were talking about it, and sort of like what we feel now with the internet and viral videos. There was a version of that was rare in media, in that a film takes 2 years to make, at least, to get to create it and write it and produce it and get it out there, and videos we would do in a few weeks. So you'd get a commission, and then 3 weeks later it might be on air. In fact, I had one experience where it was like 10 days or something outrageous, the production interval. So that was a very exciting time, and it's probably like that in pop music, where things are coming out, people are sort of commenting, and there's echoes of culture being kind of bantered around. And in videos it was like that, and Spike Jonze, who's legendary, Michel Gondry, Mark Romanek, Chris Cunningham. There were a group of directors working at that time that had a certain shared sensibility, at least a kind of adventurous spirit, and I was one of them. And it was exciting. And it came out of my interest in music and the fact that I had been in a band, and then it was this fertile territory to explore, and I worked with Spike frequently. We did a thing called Gangster Tripping, or actually it was Praise You, if you remember that one, where it was all the kind of nerds dancing in a movie theater, and I could tell you a story how that came about, but you want to hear the story?
Yeah, of course, of course. I'm only for the anecdotes, that's what we're in for. Okay. When the magic really lights up.
Cool. I'll try to be brief, but basically Spike is a very playful guy who loves pranks, and Jackass is something he produced, and so there's a side of him that appreciates that. And he had done a video for, I think, Norman, who is Fatboy Slim, the guy, where he danced in a really nerdy, kooky dance style, and he sent it to him as a gift, like, oh, here's a video I made for you, whatever. So anyway, the guy said, oh, let's really do this for real. And Spike was very busy at the time, and he sort of brought me in and said, well, can you help do this? And my contribution creatively was like, well, rather than have it just be you, let's have you be the leader of a troupe, and let's get 10 dancers, and you can teach them how to dance. So basically, in a very short order, he improvised his dance moves on a video camera, and then we looked at photos of extras just from a kind of a casting book. We didn't meet anyone, but we said, this guy, this person, this girl, this person, whatever, and they were not dancers. They were just picked pretty much randomly. Then we had a choreographer who took Spike's moves and he kind of defined what they were, and they gave him names like, oh, that's the chicken strut, and then we're going to go into bacon the cookie, and all these kind of little mnemonics to sort of remember the moves. And Spike was busy shooting some other things, so he wasn't like day-to-day involved, but I helped to supervise these things. So long and short of it is, in 5 or 6 days of rehearsal, this group of just random people learned these moves, and we decided we were going to, do sort of a pop-up, whatever you call it, like what's the word when you all gather somewhere?
It's what we're gonna do later on tonight. So be ready, guys.
Right, but what's the word for that when you a flash mob? So it was that kind of vibe. We're gonna have a flash mob. We're gonna go, and the aspect of the story that I think is stimulating and may have a lesson for those interested in filmmaking is we had a plan. We had these little portable cameras. We got in a van, 2 vans. We drove down to the in Santa Monica, the 3rd Street Promenade, which is kind of like not like Fisherman's Wharf, but kind of a promenade with a lot of
little location,
people. And we unloaded. We put our boombox down. They got out. They danced. We had these kind of 3 or 4 hidden cameras, and we did it. And it was not that great. It was kind of
it's terrible.
It was it was amusing, but the people didn't really care because it was not a place that there was any. There's a lot of kooks around there, so it wasn't a moment, didn't occur. So we got in the van and we were like, oh, we did it. Like, all right, cool, and that was funny, yeah. But I remember that kind of gnawing feeling, and Spike and I both kind of knew, like, did we get it? It's like, well, not really, And so we told our producer, we're going to go and we're going to find another place to do this and just do it again. And she's a friend, so I can make fun of her, but she spoke French. She was French, so I won't do the French accent, but she's like, no, we don't have a permit. It's overtime. We can't do it. And we said, come on, we just got to do one more take. No, we're not going to say, we're going to go anyway. Just drive to the place. So we sort of hijacked our own production, took it to Century City, where we ended up jumping out of the vans in front of the movie theater that just so happened to be letting people in for the show of whatever film. We put the boombox down. We had all the hidden cameras, the people with cameras, and it happened again, and it ignited. It really came to life. And if you remember the video, there's a moment where the manager came out and stops the tape, and Spike jumps on him like a monkey, and then plays it again, and just through kind of pure bluster and just whatever it was, it came together, and it won the MTV award, and it became sort of iconic. But the little thing that always stuck with me that I think is worth passing along is, that you got to listen to your intuition, and sometimes whether it's doing another take or trying another approach, that you have to listen to that and develop a very good rapport with your intuition, because we kind of knew deep down it wasn't quite right, and we had to have the courage to kind of push through the obstacle to make it have another chance. And so that's the story.
This is it. This is all we need to know, and that's why we created this masterclass. I mean, when it comes from Spike and Roman, guerrilla style, just improvising, and it could be in Venice Beach or in a theater, just making it happen. So actually, the reason why we created this masterclass series is really because we truly believe here at San Francisco Film School that in order to make great films, you have to make movies. That's why we have so many of our students now in production with a thesis film, but also because we want to learn from those that are shaping the cinematic language. And sometimes it really goes back to that intuition, that beauty, that passion, and killing your own production. These happen sometimes, and sometimes for the magic of cinema is for the best. But then out of the pop culture, we're gonna go in and screen the first clip. This is a surprise. This is a clip from your first film. If we can turn off the lights.
I like what I see.
It wouldn't be long before they call it Agent Codename Dragonfly.
Romance Animal Store?
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Paul.
Valentine.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice
Come on
to
in.
meet you.
So, the director's still on his way. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna get you set up for the meantime.
Sorry about my voice. My apartment's flooded. I'm getting a cold.
It'll be fine. Maybe we can...
Romance Animal Store?
I I was...
This is the Chairman speaking. May just receive. Secret agent codename Gratified.
No, non me ne frega niente adesso, siamo quasi...
Tea, would you like some?
No, adesso
Yeah.
Paolo, Felix is missing, okay? Go ahead and get the session going, okay? Come on. Yes, yes. People, come on,
You ever done this before?
Hello.
Ok, ça tourne.
So, we finally meet. I like what I see. I have a mission, which I intend to accomplish. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm so in love with you. Do you love me? I'm in love with you. I love you.
C'est à la fin de la bobine, là.
Changing roles, sorry.
You have, an eyelash right here. If you blow on it, you can make a wish.
I wish cats could talk.
You're not supposed to tell me, though. It's not gonna come true. I'm sure it'll come true.
My cat's pregnant. I wish I could talk to her. I love you. I love you. I'm in love with you.
The last one was...
Can I get you to sign
The
this?
last one was
Sure.
yours.
You must be the director. How exactly you want me to do this? With a lot of authority or maybe more playful? Okay. Who is Dragonfly? She's a super sexy secret agent. But that's a top secret. Dragonfly is coming. How do you like it? Good?
Great.
Good.
But,
Okay, you hear me? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean, I wish cats could talk. When I first watched this movie, not only the love for French cinema, of course, the French New Wave, Godard, Truffaut, Agnes Varda, reflects into it, but also a real unique look and perspective. The film was released in 2001 when Cannes Film Festival, pretty well received, and you know, it has. We were talking about this just now, magic. That's why I make movies. It's really that magic of the movie set where you go from falling in love in 1 second to, you know, disaster as the new person comes in and starts to yell next to you what is happening next. So where did this movie came? What was the inspiration for this?
Well, a part of it, and I haven't seen that in some time, but as a kid, growing up around filmmaking, the sound work, which this is a looping session where they're post-dubbing the dialogue. I remember as a kid those kind of sounds of film winding backwards and that curious process of sort of fractured sound and picture all kind of being loopy. So
especially with your father filmed The Conversation. I mean,
that relates,
right?
Totally. So that was a component, but yeah, I mean, I think it was sort of a love letter to filmmaking, and I grew up in the 70s, so this is portraying, the late 60s, and so it was kind of a little bit of a wish fulfillment to kind of be present around the time to recreate something that I wished I could have experienced directly, like being around Paris in the late 60s and the French New Wave. And then conversely, or in addition, there was a pop movie culture, like Barbarella sort of epitomizes it, but Mario Bava is a filmmaker who I really appreciate. He made Danger Diabolic and other Black Sunday, a lot of genre movies, and he's very iconic. So this film is sort of a little study of very highly personal, creative, artistic movies, and then pop movies and comic book movies in effect. And so I was trying to straddle both of those, my appreciation for both, and kind of find a curious path. And then one other motivation was that there are movies about filmmaking, most noteworthy 8.5, but also Everything for Sale is the Vita movie, the Polish filmmaker, or Polish or Czech? Polish. And Stardust Memories, which is Woody Allen's movie, which I love. It's top 10. So that kind of, in those cases, those are mature filmmakers looking back on their life in cinema and kind of the echo of filmmaking, kind of looking back, and this character is a young character sort of looking forward, beginning in a career of film. So that was also another kind of personal hook of like, ooh, where's my life going in this world of filmmaking, and then navigating between personal artful stuff and more commercial stuff. So those are some of the thoughts that inspired it.
No, of course, and your debut that again went at Cannes and was so appreciated, but that then really signed you as director. And we for the real things, and I think you started before with follow your intuition. Really, don't be afraid to get in a theater and start dancing. You won't be ridiculous. Just get that shot done. But when it comes to filmmaking and directing, the machine that you are leading is pretty big, and collaboration it's everything. So what is your take on working when it comes to directing with your DP, with your makeup artist, with your actors? What is collaboration, and especially working with actors since it's directing? What is your experience there?
Well, creating a team around you that's suited for the project is a big part of your role. And they say, the biggest part of directing is just selecting the actors. So I think having discerning taste as it relates to what you're trying to do to get the right people is an important thing. And again, I'm a very much a believer in intuition, like you have a feeling about someone. And it's sort of a digression, but my dad, I know, has often expressed how he'll sort of make some counterpoint. Like, for example, his early film he made, kind of his first film in a way, was called You're a Big Boy Now, and there were two roles. One was a sort of demure, more timid type girlfriend, and the other was a very extrovert, sexy kind of character. And there were two actors that he was considering, and one was known to be, or was considered publicly like this more outgoing and extrovert person. The other was more intimate. But so he cast both, but he inverted the roles to what you would expect. So that kind of gave it a charge. So anyway, that's just, I'm trying to think of little practical things that when you look at something, so you want to find what's right, but sometimes what's more deeply right can not seem right initially, and it's good to listen to that or be open to that. I think having discerning taste, if you have seen movies or you read or you're inquisitive and you're kind of exposed to things, that all builds this sort of kind of means to make good decisions, and you have that to draw upon. In addition to your intuition, which could just be raw, But the reality is that there's every which way to make a movie and every style and approach. So I'm speaking from my experience, and anything I say that doesn't resonate, then you can just appreciate, oh, well, that's not the way I would do it. And there's every which way. Like Wes is a person who I work with frequently, we'll talk about it, but he prepares everything through a pre-planned storyboard, and it's very highly, considered. Whereas someone like my dad is just like, let's see what happens today. So there's no right or wrong.
Which one of the two are you? Which?
It's funny because someone asked me that, and it sounds like a cop-out, but I think I'm a fusion of both.
Oh.
Doing videos as a kind of a training ground, the song, sometimes you'll edit the song slightly if it's over long, but it is 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and there's verse, chorus, verse, outro. And you have to adhere to that format. Commercial, and slightly changing now to the internet, but it's 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And it's not 29 seconds, not 31 seconds. So precision and music is precise because it's based on time, was something I kind of thought about and got ingrained. So I'm a little more precise about thinking things through, and also when it comes to budgets, it's kind of a luxury to play. I mean, you can always play to a certain degree, but being more prepared through planning is kind of a requirement. So a combination of both are good skills to draw from.
No, fantastic, because again, yes, we did a masterclass with Alfonso Cuarón, and he was the kind of a person that is like, I have to go on set with the Chivo, and then, we're going to find out the shots there. We know a little bit what we want to do, but we're going to find it out there. And then, we did one with at the Zwick in which, no, they do storyboard, they do really prepare and sit down with the DP and, have that conversation. But do you, as you're writing, do you already visualize it and you're ready?
Sometimes, it depends really. When I'm writing and you're kind of dreaming and preparing, a lot of times, because if you don't know what your location may be, if the window's here, the door's there, and you have a vague sense. But I try to just let it stew, and I don't try to force a decision. As a shoot approaches and you see the location and you have to make decisions like, well, the light will come from the window and we can't see that because that's where we're putting our equipment, you try to be prepared. So I think there's a logical balance.
I saw recently a masterclass of David Lynch, which was beautiful. And when asked, where you get your ideas, it was comparing, this to fishing, which is beautiful. You throw it in, and the deepest it goes, the most unexpected, is what you can get, and you never know. You really never know. When it comes to your ideas, since you are a screenwriter, we're going to go into that. Does this resonate? What do you look for your story? Is really in the daily life, or do you go back to authors, literature? It's cinema, of course, because you're in love with cinema. But where is the source of the inspiration?
It's very mysterious, and there's no one place. I find that travel often brings about a stimulating thought process that generates ideas. An analogy that I read, I think it was David Byrne, who's the musician, talking about where does creativity come from. And I think many people say it's a mystery, sort of like an antenna. You pick up radio waves, so however that works. But he says, oh, well, you want to catch the bus. Meaning the idea that's going to bring you somewhere, but you have to go to the bus stop, which in his mind is, being prepared, maybe having his guitar or whatever it may be. So I think that's a good little tidbit of you can't, if you want the bus, you have to go to the bus stop. So you have to find your bus stop or where you want to go or which direction or whatever, but you need to put in that effort and that inquiry and sort of get the antenna raised and out there. And then, have the grace of getting ideas to flow to you. So, yeah, it's very mysterious, and, I think that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful because it goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, growing up with your father, being surrounded by so many artists, and, we have so many students here, and it really goes back to, starting to create your crew from right now. The person that are sitting next to you are going to be the great cinematographers, screenwriters of your next movie. So it really is within the people, I think, a little bit like you and Spike, pulled that beautiful music video on. You never know, and trusting that intuition. Fantastic.
I have one other thought, because I was present for Megalopolis, which is my dad's movie, and it's kind of critically divergent. People loved it, people hated it, but he was inquiring. He had things that interested him deeply, and he was trying to understand them and work through. And it occurred to me, because I saw Megadoc, which is the documentary portraying it, which is interesting to see. But I think a bit of advice or a pathway is, if you pursue a story or media or whatever it is of something that intrigues you, really grabs your interest, like you want to learn about, or you're curious about, or maybe you know something about it, or you want to learn more. Like CQ, when I made it, it was like, ooh, I love Breathless, and I love 8.5, and I love Danger Diabolic, but I want to know more about these people and go deeper. So I was kind of, it wasn't like I was so knowledgeable about it. I wanted to become more knowledgeable. So that notion of inquiry and something that grabs your attention. So I would ask yourself, like, what is it that fascinates you that you could just do a deep dive? And then the notion of like kind of embroidery was occurring to me, and Wes sort of has this aspect of, like, if I gave you a needle and thread and I gave you a cloth or whatever, and I said, embroider something for the next year. Every day, just do it for an hour. No matter what, it would be interesting, for sure. So that kind of continued applied effort over time, or in a burst, or however you do it, you have a stimulating idea, then you have the effort you put in to sort of inquire and define what it is. I'm sort of alluding to writing, because, you know, you're sort of imagining it. It's sort of inevitable that something is going to come out of it. At the very least, you'll have scratched the itch of learning about the thing that fascinated you. But I feel pretty certain, and I've seen it like with Wes, for example, every day he's writing something, he's adding a word, changing a line, structuring something, working with it. And that's not the only way to do it. There's some people who are very intuitive, like Bob Dylan will write a song in 20 minutes, that's iconic. So again, there's no one way, but interesting subject, applied effort is a good recipe.
No, it's amazing because, again, I think the biggest takeaway is be curious, curiosity, be curious. And then, like, the great champions, you know, could be Yannick Sinner now, you know, or Djokovic. I love tennis, of course. Consistency and practice. And this is a great way to go to the next clip, if we could go, Christine.
Is that Dad's razor?
Yeah?
Can I say something?
What?
You don't have permission to take his property that belongs to all of us and use it for yourself as if it's yours. Jack agrees with that, right, Jack? Plus, Dad would have hated it.
Why?
That's my opinion. I know him well.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Well, I don't mean it to be. I just don't want you to get the feeling that you're better friends with him than we are, or something weird like that.
And also, you can't leave your wife just because she's pregnant. Jack agrees with that too, right, Jack?
Stop including me.
I was his favorite. He told me that with blood all over him, laying in the street right before he died.
How is that supposed to make us feel? I want my passport back.
Francis?
Yeah?
Here's your bell.
Stop!
What'd you do?
You don't love me!
Yes, I do.
I love you too, but I'm gonna mace you in the face! Stop! I had to do it!
Jack, you made this!
Stop including me!
What we say is no conflict, no movie. So, you know, like, very important, especially when it's Wes Anderson made and wrote with Roman Coppola. I think that, yeah, screenwriting is, at least for me, as director and writer, the most difficult phase. The writing, rewriting, incorporating feedback, being consistent, like you were saying before. But of course, you're working with one of the best directors in the world. Again, you've been nominated for an Oscar for Moonrise Kingdom. Well, first off, how did this collaboration started? And I think within any collaboration, there is really, again, some intuitive element, some love, real love for the craft and for the person that is so meaningful. So what is the source of that relationship? And then how do you work together when it comes to, really putting a script together?
Yeah, well, I mean, my experience has been one thing leads to the next and leads to the next, and it so happened that I was in Paris. Sophia was shooting Marie Antoinette, and so she asked me to help with some second unit, which I was happy to do. Jason was in that film, and Wes happened to be around in Paris because he was looking for a new experience.
Because he loves Paris.
Yeah, and he does. He lives there. And so anyway, we socialized, and I had known Wes from years before. We met socially, and I'll take a little sidetrack, because a lot of filmmakers of a new generation, like, oh, how can I get started, and what's, how do we begin? And something I learned, especially in my music video career, is as a younger person, I was tuned in with music of my generation. And like the Strokes, for example, I heard them before anyone. I was in England and someone played it, the record came out there before, and I like this, and I was able to reach out to them and say, hey, can I help? And your network of people who you guys know, your roommate, or if you said, well, who's really shining, who's talented as a performer or as a in any which way, a writing talent or cinematographer, and you sort of link in with them, like Spike Jonze, who had a wonderful career in music videos. He was buddies with some of these guys, the Beastie Boys, socializing or tuned in, and so it was a kind of a given that, well, we need to make a music video. Who do we ask? Well, ask Spike, because he's right there. And any music video director usually had some band that they kind of latched onto and went for a ride. So practical advice is, like, who can you spot in your cohort or your world that's got something special, because you have a bird's eye view of your generation. Wes, I met him when he did the short of Bottle Rocket, because a friend of mine knew him from Texas, said, hey, this guy's made a short, will you check it out? And I met him before he made Bottle Rocket as a film. So he was that was the antecedent, or whatever the word is, that allowed things to develop and now lead to our work together. So practical advice, just look around you and who's going to be going places and go along with them. With regards to writing Darjeeling, Wes knew he wanted. Wes is the filmmaker. He's the director and he's the lead writer. The team he brings on helps him find it, which is the case on this film. And Jason and I were both co-writers. But he knew he wanted to have a movie with three brothers, and that had these brotherly relationship, portrayed here in a fight and other affection. And so we kind of replicated that by the three of us being together. We would go out and eat. And we actually did go to India as a kind of writing research trip, and we started to kind of behave a little bit in the spirit of the characters. Okay. So I'm Peter. I'm the Adrian Brody character, sort of me. Jason was Jason, and the older brother was Wes. And so we kind of had our role, and we would do things. We would maybe go into a temple or go explore the city in some way, kind of in the spirit of who we were, and then at night we would go back and sort of jot down impressions. So that was a rare, and not we don't always do it that way because we were sort of replicating the characters, but that's a good way to do it. And one thing, seeing this again, and it's whenever I work with Wes, I'm always surprised because his approach to dialogue, he has just a really unique ear. And so only he can do it, really. But there's a line in this movie where I said, we were just talking socially about a guy who had alopecia. And I said, oh, alopecia, that's where you shave your head, except you don't have to shave it because you can't grow hair anyway, right? And he's like, yes. And he got his notebook. And so my fumbling, weird way to describe this thing, it's actually in the movie, it's kind of funny, was just me like fumbling to say something. So he's the kind of guy that hears that and it goes in the notebook, or he has a very good memory, so he'll retain this stuff. But one thing, and again, for dialogue, just again, I'm trying to distill this down to not just my stories, but like practical advice. I think it's a natural tendency to sort of, this guy saying, feeling angry. He's like, I'm angry. And it's like, that one's upset that they're angry. Well, don't get mad at me. And there's a kind of a sort of obvious path when you're trying to work something out. But if you take a step back and you can say, well, how could I say I'm angry without saying it at all? Or, you know, twist it up in a way, or maybe do opposite. Say, you're a great person. And it's like, why are you saying that? Well, you know, you can invert things. I saw a thing like on Instagram where Paul Schrader, who's the famous writer of Taxi Driver and made Hardcore and American Gigolo as a writer, and a director too, he said, oh, what I tell my students is you write a scene, and usually if you read the scene backwards, hey Siri, what time is it? Sorry. If you read,
always ready. He's taking notes.
Yeah.
Siri's stealing it all. With AI now thrown off.
Anyway, I haven't tried this. He said, write a scene, or has the students write a scene, and then, okay, now read it backwards. And he said, usually when you read it backwards, it's way better. And so these kinds of oblique approaches, and you know, Wes does it kind of naturally because he hears it that way, or he only wants to write it down if it grabs his attention. But that's, I think, a good recipe to follow.
No, it's amazing. Reach out for people. Stay close to those people that inspire you. That will take you places, first off. And then, of course, I mean, what a beautiful adventure going really in India and being together and within living. I think movies is always, making films is a great opportunity because it's all about being alive and sharing moments, and so nice to hear that this movie came out from really a lived experience and in India. But for me, a very important moment in screenwriting is the feedback session, right? When you finally are strong enough to, which I'm never, give it out to someone and hear, you know, the very moment, usual moment of killing your darling. So how do you work instead with feedbacks? Do you reach out to, you know, before, of course, going to maybe the producers, friends, and how do you incorporate feedback? How do you appreciate and look at that phase of the writing process?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, anyone making something sensitive to have it be criticized or not embraced fully, I don't seek critique, or I don't like, oh, I'm going to share it with you. I'm a little more reserved. There are certain people, like my sister, Sophia, she'll send something to me early, and I'll send something to her early, and because there's such a trust and a kind of comfort that they have your back. And, you know, one of the things, being a second unit director, that trained my attitude is, when I'm on a set as a second unit director, I don't have any other desire except to serve the filmmaker. And so if they say, oh, we want a shot of this and this, I'll give them my idea, like, oh, wouldn't it be better here? If they say, no, it'd be better here, it's like, got it. And I'm sort of on the team, or I'm very much on the team. And I think that's why I'm appreciated by my dad and Sophia and Wes. That I'm not trying to deviate or do my thing, because I'm there to serve them. So in a way, the reason I brought that up is that Sophia just wants me to write the thing I want to write. She's not like, oh, well, I think this is interesting. She'll share her insights, but she's just there to bolster what I'm trying to do. So I look for that type of help that is not trying to give an opinion that's not harmonious with mine. That's not easy to find, that kind of colleague, so you got to look for them. To me, with feedback, I kind of, and maybe it's a flaw, but I kind of, if someone says, oh, I think this or that, if it resonates with me, like, oh, they're right, then it's great, I use it, and it's a pleasure. But if they say, oh, I think that character should be an old man, not a young woman, and it just does not resonate with what I'm trying to do, I just discount it. So I guess I'm saying the obvious, which is getting feedback that resonates with you, then great, embrace it, and you have people that can do that. But if you get advice that says something that you just don't believe, you just have to have the confidence and the intuitive clarity that, well, that doesn't belong here. One little insight, again, I'm trying to find little nuggets throughout this discussion, which relates to feedback, is my dad has the observation where, and he does appreciate doing screenings, test screenings, and kind of feel the room, and sometimes people will fill out cards or make comments and so on. And sometimes it'll say, oh, this part of the movie was long. And so the obvious thing, and a lot of people might say it, and it's like, oh shit, well, the editor was like, we got to cut that scene, or whatever. But I just, well, wait a second, why do they think it's long? And he'll sort of inquire, and he'll actually add to the scene, and then play it again. It's like, that scene was great, it was too short. So there's so much about perception. I mean, basically, if people are interested and they're watching, I mean, you've never, if you love like Breaking Bad, you don't say, oh, there's so many episodes, you know, you're just there for the ride. So you wouldn't have to be, you can't be too literal with comments, because people may not be saying the thing that's actually what they're, you have to kind of dig into why it is they said that.
No, it's amazing, because there's so much here building trust for stuff, and we all know as filmmakers and artists how difficult and how precious that really is, building that trust where you can, you know, exactly have a very beautiful creative process that will lead you to the next step, but at the same time, having the power sometimes to understand when, yes, you have to take a feedback, you have to incorporate, and when that is not in line with your vision, which is eventually what great directing is, you know, knowing in the doubt, being facing the doubt, but knowing what is the path that you want to take. So thank you very much for this. This is so inspiring and beautiful. But when it comes to Wes Anderson, I mean, this man is so unique, just in the way he frames his shots, just the way he prepares his worlds, because he really builds worlds. And so how do you go for that ride? Do you try to, you know, get into understanding what the world is and playing along, or you just are there really to give your feedback for the story? And how do you build?
Yeah, again, it's pretty mysterious, but we have a knack, or I have a knack, something that I provide serves him, and that's why I've been invited back. In Moonrise Kingdom, he had written, you know, 15 pages or a section of the film, and he had a conception of, you know, he wanted these two kids together, and they had run away. So anyway, he was describing it to me, and it wasn't in the context of a writer, just as a friend, like, hey, how's that going? He's like, oh, well, you know, I have this, and read a few pages. Like, wow, this is great. Well, you know, how did they meet? I mean, maybe when they met, they created this this plan to meet, and it was sort of an aha thing. Oh yeah, where did they meet? I said, well, maybe they met at a thing, you know. And so in that instance, I just sort of had some question that was relevant, and it was posed as a question, and a sincere question. It's not like, hey, how about this, but kind of gently sort of create a condition where something could blossom. I was just with Wes 10 days ago, and we're working on a new thing, and I was sort of, you know, I'm sort of conscious, we're working together, and I'm thinking, geez, this is interesting, what can I remember? And I'll share something that I wrote down, like, oh, this is interesting. But imagine like a jazz musician, and he's a trumpeter or whatever, and we're having this session. We have a sort of a premise of a scene, like two characters are meeting up for the first time or whatever. And my analogy that I was observing in real time as we're kind of working together is that, okay, they're in a subway or whatever, that's not the real thing, and the lights are flickering, and it comes to a stop, and there's a kind of a little bit of a vibe or a world or something, and I thought consciously, like, wow, this is kind of like jazz, where the ba-boom, ba-boom, and there's a kind of a rhythm or something that's the underpinning, and I maybe can provide that because I can sort of say, you know, help paint the scene. It's like, yeah, that's right, and more, furthermore, and it's sort of like music, and then he will, and it's usually him, he'll riff like whatever it is, and I'll say ba-ba-ba, like ba-ba, you know, and that's as close as I can kind of describe it. So it is magical, and it's hard to replicate, but if you can kind of get into that mindset of, you know, I'm not so knowledgeable about jazz, but that kind of jazz spirit, you're riffing on things, and jazz is famous for themes that kind of come back. You echo something from a past, so maybe some movie you like. There's a resonant flavor that's called back, you know. So, or it can be totally fresh and whatever. It can be anything it wants. But if you can find, if that bit of advice, if you can sort of apply it, congratulations, and it's worth trying.
Wow. Well, let's jazz together, guys. I mean, no, beautiful. And it really is like that, even though it is extremely difficult to find the people you can jazz with. But having that ongoing conversation, which sometimes also is brutal, though, it can really bring it to harmony. And it's nice because you started with music videos, you started with Mugi, so who knows if that was really what inspired you and brought you, you know, to jam with these amazing artists as yourself. I want to draw, since your collaborations are so many and diverse and unique, I want to move to the next clip, Christine, if we can.
Oh, look at that.
I think these clothes are too sophisticated for me.
I mean, what's sophisticated? But you can go around in a feather and it'll be sophisticated.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
We have a winner right here.
Absolutely. I like you in blue, yeah. Blue's your color. Prints take away from your look.
Smells like a forest.
I like this one.
Well, solid suits you better. I hate brown. It reminds me of the Army.
Alright, cars upstairs. You got yours in there too, right?
Black hair and more eye makeup will make your eyes stand out more.
It's 4 o'clock, boys. We gotta go. Barbecue's waiting. Let's go.
Come on.
Come on, boys.
Yes, it's fascinating because the year before this beautiful hit of about Elvis Presley by Baz Luhrmann came out and starring Austin Butler. And then the year after at the Venice Film Festival, again, Sofia presented a completely different side of the coin where the point of view is not Elvis Presley, it's Priscilla and her look on the world. In a patriarchal society, and especially in a world in which it's still difficult to find space. But again, this is just one of the many collaborations that you had with your sister, and of course you were mentioning that before. You know, Sofia would send you, ideas early on. How is you also have been the second unit director for many of her work? How is the collaboration with her, and where do you step in, to help with the story, to help with a project?
Yeah, well, Sofia is very clear about what she wants. Has sort of her artistic approach, which is well recognized. You know, I'm 6 years older, and so as a kid, she was 6 and I was 12, and I would help her make costumes, and We do put makeup on her and do shows. So we have that tradition and that history of being an older brother and helping out in this fun thing. She was always very creative and very, imaginative kid. So it just sort of continues. And always interested in art and drawing and fashion. And so again, it's sort of a continuum. And people say, hey, how was that? Your film was in Cannes or whatever, and more, maybe I'm getting older, but it's just, there's just this kind of pathway that I'm being drawn through, and that's the course of my life. And I make my decisions based on my curiosity, like where am I interested most, and I kind of just divert there. I'm certainly kind of an ADD personality, but so I guess I'm saying, like with Sophia, it's not like, oh, what was it like to do that thing? It's this kind of ongoing process. For Priscilla, I shot those hair close-ups. Traditionally, second unit is anything without the primary actor. So a car driving by or hands doing something, that's the tradition. But I've had the invitation to do more stuff with primary actors just because I have that rapport, and sometimes I'm relied on to do that. Like Dracula, I shot significant sequences with all the main actors. In this case, Sophia was shooting in Toronto. It was a 31-day schedule or 28 days. It was a short schedule with a lot to do, and there was just a pileup of some shots that she needed for these kind of montages, gambling in Vegas and hair and different clothing stuff. So I came for like 3 days, I think, and I just came and I shot all this stuff to help her and to be part of it because I enjoy that. She's not a director who likes the like a Steadicam or a crane or driving shot. All that stuff is just not her comfort zone. So on the Rocks, there was kind of a little bit of a car chase scene, and so she asked me to help with that because she just couldn't see it, and how to manage those moving parts felt uncomfortable. In Marie Antoinette, there's like a hunting sequence with horses galloping, and again, it was like just not her thing. So I did help, particularly with those things, because she knew that I could do a better job of what she wanted than she did, because she didn't have comfort in that type of work.
But also you were there, like, what I love of Sophia, and that's the beauty also, I believe with Gia, however, of course, as we said it before, is in the blood, is that she makes movies that really are coming on the tip of their toes, and without taking too much space, they shine in a simple way about true relationship, thinking about Lost in Translation just as one of them. So I guess you were never surprised, your sister and brothers, but how much does she evolve in the screenwriting process, since you also work together to get to that final draft? And do you already know that Marie Antoinette will be the actual Marie Antoinette, or there is a lot of creative process going there?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I totally understand the question, but her writing work is very light, in that the scripts are short and things are kind of just simple. That she's like Wes's scripts. You can get them because they publish them. They're very dense with specifics and description, and it's just the way he thinks. Sophia is a little more shorthand, and everything's there. She's able to communicate, but there's a lot of room, and often she will make a sort of companion visual document that is like a sort of a mood board that is almost as instructive as any script. So that's kind of her process of just kind of a more glancing at the story and the way it's defined. And of course she brings all her personality and her interests to bear as she makes the film.
Beautiful. I want to start opening to the floor. I know there must be questions, and of course this is an opportunity to learn directly from the master. So there is a question over there? Yes. Can stand up. Maybe there is someone with a mic? No.
First of all, my name is Roman Coppola. I came from Houston, Texas to be here today.
Oh wow, I'm flattered.
I followed your dance film, Everett, Jersey Hills, and Wes Anderson. So today, I was on a computer, just looking at scripts, and something popped up today. And it could give me a moment. You were talking about a bus. You were talking about magic. You were talking about how a story comes to you. And there's a quote by a lady named Eudora Welty. And she says, once you're into a story, everything seems to apply. What you overhear on a city bus is exactly what your character would say on the page you're writing. Wherever you go, you meet a part of your story. I guess you're tuned into it, and the right things are sort of magnetized. I don't know if it's a coincidence, because you kept talking about magic. You kept talking about intuition. You kept talking about mystery, or curiosity, and word of mouth. My question to you is, it seems like Hollywood is changing, the directors are changing, everything's changing, and somewhere along the line, the curiosity is being lost, the magic is being lost, and storytelling being lost. And you had said something that you met with Wes Anderson. How, if you as a director, are going to keep the magic, the wow, the mystery going with the new stories that are coming out? And do you prefer to merge with new directors to help push you to higher limitations? And thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful question.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I guess I don't think too much about it. I agree. Well, I think a good recipe, or at least the recipe I follow, is following your intuition, curiosity, going to the bus stop, putting effort in. So that's all I can do. It's hard for me to think globally about the landscape of filmmaking. We know it's in a very transitional time with the way the streamers and the exhibit, the theater experience, all that kind of stuff. So in a way, anytime there's a transition, there's a wonderful opportunity. So new generation doesn't have to fit in. You can sort of make a future a bit. So I think that's an opportunity. But I guess I'm just sort of thinking about me. That sounds selfish, but the things that I want to do or try to do, strive to do. And I think if everyone just, digs into the things that they're passionate about and whatever it may be, that's just a great recipe for culture. I do agree with the Eudora Welty. Is she a poetess?
Screenwriter? Yes.
Okay, anyway, the name is so familiar, but I couldn't say. Anyway, when I'm working on something, there is a funny harmony where like when I was working on CQ, this is a long time ago, I would watch a movie and I say, oh my God, that is the shot that I didn't think about it, but that's what I want to do, this kind of shot in this way. And so you curate and you start drawing all this stuff. It just seems almost just meant for you, the same thing of hearing something on the bus. And then conversely, there'll be a shot or a detail, and it's like, you know what, this movie does not have that at all. Like, that's just out. And so even the negative things help you define what it is. So it's true when you're in the thrall of creating something, everything you see, you can sort of apply, whether it's something you want to draw from or something you want to reject. And so I think that's great practical advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I go on, please, if you have a question, I'll come there in a second. I think, Roman, when it comes to filmmaking, however, there is something that we don't talk enough, which is, going on a movie set, it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of pressure. We get scared. I've just did always, again, the masterclass with Alfonso Cuarón, and he's like, Pietro, I'm terrified to go on set, and yet, it's all about taking the ride and getting there, and then things go slow. So what you as a director, as a creative, what if you are, maybe you're not afraid of nothing, but what you are afraid of before getting a movie set, and how do you manage to face these stress and these fears? What is your mantra?
I definitely become stressed and apprehensive before a shoot, and just pulling up and the trucks and the stuff. And I think Spielberg or some noteworthy person said, what's the hardest part about directing? It's like getting out of the car. So that's a universal thing, and I think that's normal. In Megadoc, which is the behind the scenes of Megalopolis, he said, I recommended it. I thought it was very
It's
accurate.
screening right now, and they had a fantastic event last Monday, so go out in theaters.
But, you know, and my dad really is the ultimate film student. You know, he's celebrated as a master, but he's like, no, I'm a student. And you can see him inquiring. And they ask the same question, like, you know, how do you feel? So I'm scared. And so if I wasn't scared, then I wouldn't be, you know, if you know exactly what you're doing, then there's no chance for something surprising to occur. So it's kind of an unfortunate precondition. You kind of have to be scared. If not, you should wonder why. And I remember, I think it was Spielberg, I saw something or read it in a book where that kind of, there's a moment where you might be on a set, and I'll tell an anecdote, where you have a problem, maybe whatever it might be, the weather doesn't cooperate, an actor is unavailable, something happens, it's inevitable, and how you kind of adjust and figure something out and kind of make do with what you are able to do is kind of the best part of filmmaking. And I'm sort of paraphrasing, but he said that kind of urgent moment where it's like, I got to figure this out. And if you're lucky, you have a team that you can draw, you know, trust and work with. But that kind of, you know, it's kind of called a flow state of like you're in the moment and you're just like, okay. And that is connected with panic and like urgency. Like if you're in the forest and so you got to find your way out, like you're 100% like, okay, I came this way, the sun is going that way, like you're just in the moment. So that state is enthralling, scary, and kind of where you want to be. And my little story that relates to that is on CQ, there's a scene, it's a New Year's sequence, and I had all these shots. I had the shot of this people coming out, and I had a shot of this Ferrari driving by, and a shot of people laughing and doing stuff. And I was trying to make this kind of Fellini-inspired kind of reverie New Year's moment. And my producer said, you know, we have 45 minutes. You're not going to get those 4 shots. And I said,
Roman, let's go.
And I said, oh, no, I'm serious. Like 45 minutes, we're pulling the plug, just no matter what. So it's like, okay, got it. So I had 45 minutes to do one shot, but I took all those ideas and I had the camera start here, pan over, look over, turn around, and all the 4 shots I wove into one shot. So I said, look, yeah, I'm doing one shot. And we hustled, and it all kind of came together. And it's one of my favorite shots that I did, and it was out of a panicky need to work within the parameters, and it created that heightened state of like, we got to figure this out, which is very exciting.
Well, this is so beautiful. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, fears keeps you sharp, but also, again, always with Quaron, he was saying, you know, filmmaking is about chasing miracles, and, you know, it really is like that when you go on set, an actor doesn't show up, and then you go out, you make it in one take, and you think it's never going to be possible, and yet it's the best shot that, you know, takes the whole movie together, brings the whole things together. So thank you. This is really beautiful, and it applies to every single one of us in our life. You know, just go out there and again, to go back to the Spike Jonze, you know, turn the music on and, like Roman says, let's jazz. But are there any questions?
I'll say one other. I mean, kind of relates to it, but
we'll be there.
Vitality, and this is sort of my dad's talking points, is, you know, when something is sparked with life, there's just something happening, that's what you're trying to achieve. So it's as simple as that, as you're making a scene in particular, is like, what will give it that spark of life? So that's just something to always remember. And then another bit of advice, I just don't want to run out of time and not be able to express it, is I propose, like, what is the most valuable tool you have? You can say, well, I have this actor, I have this great location or whatever. And I would say, look at the most valuable tool is the imagination of your audience. And so what does that mean? It means like however you can draw them in and get them firing, because movies are just an illusion of some light flickering on a wall. And so it's not real. But you're basically, your work is going right into the brain of your viewer, and the more you can draw them in through curiosity, through what you don't show, what you don't see. And if you think about something I think is interesting, is like when I was a kid, I loved comic books. And so like Spider-Man was so great, and so he would like fling his web in one panel, and then you flip the page, and he's like flying through the air, and then he lands on the side of the building. And my brain is like, whoa, like he just shot that thing and it went over there and flew across the thing and landed on the, and it's so far up, and your brain is making the movie in your head. And I do find, not to be critical of Marvel movies, but when they started making these movies where you're like kind of a video game, you're kind of seeing everything without pause and no suggestion, or that they're not, it's foolhardy because they're not tapping into the most critical instrument, which is the imagination of the viewer. So that's something I would try to apply. Like, how can you suggest something if someone is in your shot and they kind of reach down and go like that, and so, well, what is he reaching for, rather than showing what they're doing? And a lot of directors have done this beautifully. Roman Polanski is famous in Rosemary's Baby to kind of frame shots where people are kind of half in the frame and half out. And so a practical thing of engaging the audience is, what can you withhold? Like, what is outside of the frame? What don't you show? What don't you say? So those are little shortcuts.
No, this is beautiful. It's even because it goes back to the reason why we created this masterclass series, which is really about our tour. And you know, we strongly believe. We often screen In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai, that is exactly in the space that you leave to the audience to understand the story, that you can find what you said so clearly before, which is life, the spark of being alive and loving cinema, but also being together and having this wonderful opportunity to telling stories. You had a question over there, yeah. I'll give you the mic because we want to hear you, so. Here we go. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Tatum. I'm a director, and my friends and I are very inspired by you and Sophia and Wes and Spike when you were young and coming up, and how you would come together and help each other. I feel like that's what my friends and I aspire to do as directors. And I was just wondering, you know, like, we work so hard, and, you know, I went to film school, I left, and we're working in LA, like, we're directors, we have work, and we shoot a lot, but how do you stay strong when you're facing such hardships and just overcoming obstacles and failure and the rejection, and how do you keep going? How do you take it after like a bad screening or a bad shoot, you know? How do you keep going?
Yeah, that's a sensitive question. You know, I think I've had plenty of experiences. It's funny because you said, oh, CQ is well appreciated, but it did zero business and terrible reviews. So,
but it's a great outdoor.
But a lot of people afterwards say, oh, I really like that movie. So I think I'm not sure what to say. I would say, oh, we'll have a thick skin and just keep going. It's sort of generic. But I do believe that if you're doing something you enjoy, that's satisfying your curiosity, it's like, hey, I'm learning, I'm trying something, and I've done plenty of things like, oh my God, that didn't work out, but I don't regret it. You know, I learned something or made some association or tried something. So I'm not sure what to say that would be meaningful, except if you're doing what you love with people you appreciate being around, your cohort of friends and colleagues, that just take the pleasure in the doing of it. And it can be challenging because it's easy to say, oh, well, in fact, you're not getting an opportunity that you may wish. But the beauty of being a filmmaker in our time is you can have an iPhone, you can get an iMovie or whatever, and you really can make work without a whole lot of external support. So I would just take pleasure in just making the stuff at whatever level. And I'll tell you a little anecdote, but I have a company called the Directors Bureau. That's a film production company that's been around to make mostly music videos and then commercials. And I met this director who I liked. He seemed like a nice guy, but you know, it was hard to tell from his work. People send a reel, and it's very hard to judge. Like I don't know, like it's hard to judge. But anyway, he said, "Oh yeah, you know, this summer, I said I'm going to make a movie every Wednesday." So every Wednesday I made a movie. So the first one's like about my cat. The next one is like a little short story with my girlfriend, and that really caught my ear. And I ended up signing him to our company, and ultimately he became very big and he left to another company. But the punchline is that he had the verve and the energy and the desire to make a movie every week, and he did it. And that's sort of my embroidery analogy. If you just do it consistently and with effort and hopefully passion and fun, it's kind of a recipe for success. And you know, we all wish to have success, to have a professional life and to have a financial reward and stuff. But you can, just by saying I am a filmmaker, and that's defined not by any external thing, it's just by you making films. And so you can have a life as a filmmaker, like starting today, or maybe it already started, and there are going to be hard times, there's going to be challenges I don't want to gloss over, but you, by doing it and making it, you've begun. And then if you are so blessed to have a career, or you get hired, or it leads to another thing, that's just all gravy, but you have the confidence and the satisfaction of knowing, well, I'm a filmmaker and you are. And you said I'm a director, which I took as a, like, okay, she's not like, oh, I'm trying to direct. Oh, you are a director, so I believe that. And so that's would be my encouraging words, just keep going.
Beautiful. No, but again, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy in life, not only in film. And I think that if we have that passion, that enthusiasm, Roman, what really immediately really made me so excited about this masterclass is that through mutual friends, I reached out, and you didn't hesitate a second. You were, yes, let's do it. And in every single emails of this long exchange, there was always that interest in you know, really sharing, building, being alive, being present, being there.
I'll speak to that, and I'll segue into a plug, which is a sincere description of something I'm doing. But I believe, I grew up, you know, as my dad was very formative, and I was sort of at his side as he, growing up, and he gave me opportunities. And in the arts, and it goes back to the beginning, the master-apprentice situation. An artist will have an apprentice, and you say, hey, wash my brushes, or get my coffee, or whatever. And I did that for many, many, many years, just being the low man on the totem pole. But there's a beautiful system at play, and it's like Renaissance painting, talk about Italian culture. You know, each artist is the apprentice of the master, and you sort of become the maestro. And it's a privilege both ways, because the young person who's washing the brush or whatever might say, oh, you know, this color, I think this is interesting, and the master will say, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. And conversely, the master, if someone said, oh, well, we need to fill in the sky, here, you go fill in the sky, I'm going to do this other thing. So you get opportunity. Anyway, the point being is that my opportunity to be here is an opportunity for me to think about these things, to hear, get feedback, get a sense of things. And it's sort of part of the deal in the arts. And one day you guys will do what you do, and you'll, I don't want to say give back, because it's not really giving back, it's also receiving. So anyway, I value that, and I'm here for that reason, because it's part of the culture of the arts that I was grown up around, and it's beneficial for both parties. Another thing that this leads me to is I started it's a nonprofit.
Thank you.
Called
I was just going in that because it's very important for our students, the work that you do to support up-and-coming artists. And yes, I wanted really to talk about decentralized pictures, so please.
So anyway, Decentralized Pictures, we've been around for almost 6 or 7 years. It's taken us a bit of time to kind of reach critical mass. But if you go to decentralized.pictures, it's a sort of, it's a community of people who aspire to be more involved in film, look for opportunities, look for their community, as it were. And I won't go into the mechanics of it, but basically we offer these grants, and people can apply for them by pitching their idea if it harmonizes. We did Eduardo Sanchez, who famously directed a Blair Witch Project, and a guy named Jed Shepard, I think, who's done other significant horror movies, are the mentors for the Horror Film Prize, which we initiated a few months ago. And basically, I think we had $50,000, we gave out $25,000 to 2 filmmakers to make a short. And so the community submits their work, and then the community votes on the work, and there's sort of a unique algorithm. It's a blockchain project where the being on chain allows this kind of tokenization where when you apply for a grant, you put in $1, and then people all get pennies on that dollar to vote. But the long and short of it is that we have a means to discern high quality stuff we could have many submissions, and we were seeming to find good stuff based on the power of observant participants. And not to get into the nerdy tech stuff, but when a participant votes on something and that vote happened to prevail and become the winning thing, the earlier they vote, the more their future vote is weighted higher because they have a more discerning ability to spot talent. So it's kind of it's not like everyone just votes on what they like, and it can't be gamed. It's a kind of a clever mechanism to, put things out to the community and have it upvoted. So anyway, I would say go check it out. And we haven't quite gotten all our grants together in a consistent way, but Sophia may be sponsoring a grant, so we hope we can get that together. I'm trying to do a grant for like San Francisco, like a regional grant, so San Francisco, New York, Chicago, New Orleans. So that might happen. I'll communicate if it does. But there are these things that are, if you go check it out, we do screenplay assistance grants, we do finishing funds. Steve Soderbergh gave some significant money to help finish these movies that had been shot but needed to be completed. So there's opportunity there, and a lot of times people after this will say, hey, can I give you my script? And I'm going to say, you know what? Go to DCP, because that's what I'm doing to help support people. And it's a very vibrant, cool community. One more little plug is we gave $100,000 to 4 different groups of filmmakers in the Ukraine. We got a donation, since we're a nonprofit, and we made 4 movies that are just coming out. In the next few weeks, they'll be released. And then we're doing a sort of a digital platform that's an offshoot where you can put your movie up and you can get a payment that's appropriate to you. And it's like sort of an alternative to the major streamers, that if you make a movie and you try to put it out there, you will not make any money back. It's just kind of a fact, sadly. But our system, we're trying to sort of give more controls, power, and reward to the filmmakers, and that's called DCP Plus, and it's on its way to be rolled out.
We are going to put Decentralized Picture, the website, on the screen in 5 minutes. At these moments today, we talked about magic, we talked about intuition, passion, but yes, it all goes back to Roman said so well, which is, if you want to go in this industry, you got to go all the way in and be ready to jazz. And so, this is the message that I want you to take away from today. Just go out, and whatever you're telling a story or you're sharing time with your friends, jazz and have a great time. Thank you so much, Roman, for this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.